night, so quite late. Shkia is not till 8 o'clock. Late, okay, so it's maybe 8:30. Many people daven early. And the question is what to do by Sfiras Omer. It's a question that comes up all the time. So first, so this is Pasha that if someone davens in the early minyan, someone davens before by plag, so he can't say Sfiras Omer, and they don't say it, and he has to say it later. The problem is the trick is not to forget to say it. But just like any other mitzvah, that if one didn't do the mitzvah a half hour before this man of the mitzvah, he's not supposed to start a meal. He's not supposed to get involved in other things. So that's one way to remember, because let's say the shkia is 8 o'clock-ish, and so the Zman mitzvah maybe is by tzeis, let's say it's 8:30, the real Zman mitzvah 8:40, 8:45, so by 8:15 a person should already, if he wants to start a late meal at 8:15, he says, wait, I can't eat, I didn't do the mitzvah yet. He has to do Sfiras Omer. But a person is supposed to, like any mitzvah, you don't get involved in other things before you come to night Seder. You're going to sit and learn. You learn all night Seder, you may forget. So they say Sfiras Omer before. You should get into practice. A person should get into practice. Anyways, it's a good idea because there's another issue, which is Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is a tchiv d'oraisa. Sfiras Omer is the Rabbanon today, but Kriya Shema is a mitzvah d'oraisa. And again, many times we forget to say Kriya Shema. And the hetu to daven the early minyan is based on Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, that you could say after Plaga Mincha, you could say Kriya Shema after Plaga Mincha. It's a big machlokes v'shonim whether we're soymach on that. So you'll want to say there's a machlokes v'shonim. If what you should do is, if you should say daven, let's say you want to daven early Mariv, nobody does it like this, but so many Rishonim hold you should just say Kriya Shema with the Shemona Esrei, without the whole birchas Kriya Shema. Then later, when you're going to say the real Kriya Shema later, at night, you say again the brachas of Kriya Shema with it at night. We don't do that. We daven B'tzibur, we say the whole birchas Kriya Shema earlier, because we paskin the birchas Kriya Shema is, it doesn't have to go with the mitzvahs. Kriya Shema could go with the tefillah. Birchas Kriya Shema could be part of the tefillah, be maybe a ha'yotzer according to some shittas. So therefore we say daven early. You can say Birchas Kriya Shema early on Shemona Esrei, but we have to remember that we didn't get the mitzvah according to Rav Rishonim. We didn't get the mitzvah of Kriya Shema yet. So therefore, when it comes night, so there's an interesting Rashi, the first Mishnah in the Masechus Brachas. So Rashi says that the reason why the oilam was makel to daven early is because the Seimach on Kriya Shema Lamita that they say. Kriya Shema, when you want to go to bed, you say Kriya Shema Lamita. The question is, you don't say the whole Kriya Shema then, and other Rishonim don't go like it. That's what Rashi says. So the question is,
Rashi's saying that counts as a Kriya Shema?
That counts as a Kriya Shema. In other words, the question is, if I daven early, where do I get my Kriya Shema? As a mitzvah, I say the Raisa to say Kriya Shema in the morning and at night. When do I get my Kriya Shema at night? So if you hold like Rabbi Yehuda, according to some Rishonim, just like Rabbi Yehuda holds you could daven early, holds you could say Kriya Shema early. But some Rishonim hold Rabbi Yehuda only applies to davening, doesn't apply for Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is the right, has to happen when it's night. It's not night, it's still day. Even though it's after Plaga Mincha, it's still daytime, the sun's out. So the question is, where do I get my Kriya Shema? This is a big issue. There's a lot of Rishonim discussing. How do I get my Kriya Shema? So Rashi's idea is, you get your Kriya Shema before you go to bed. At night, the Kriya Shema Lamita, you say Kriya Shema. That's Rashi's concept. But
and you say the whole Shema.
What?
You say the whole Shema in that situation?
So you should say the whole Shema. I mean, the Raisi, you're with the first parsha, but you should say the whole Shema. Yeah. So these things a person should get himself used to. Either he should get used to saying the whole Shema before he goes to sleep. This way he knows he says it, or you should get used to if he davens early at 9 o'clock or something, you say Kriya Shema. Before you say Sfira, you should sure say Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is Tadim, it's a Daraisa. So before you get up to say Sfira, you say Kriya Shema. And like Friday night, when we daven early Shabbos, So not everybody makes early Shabbos in the late summer nights. So make early Shabbos at the end of the meal or before the meal, depending when you start the meal. Usually at the end of the meal, you sit down, you say Kriya Shema and Tzvi Omer. So a person should get used to saying it. Because it is a mitzvah and it's very easy to forget. Just like that, a person forgets, misses it, and
you would say it after the meal, not before benching.
You're not mechuyev to stop your meal to say Kriya Shema, because once you started the meal beheter, once you started the meal in heter, and you started the meal before the zman, so you're not mechuyev to stop your meal to say it. But so you say at the end of the meal, you know. But if a person remembers the middle, he wants to say the middle. In case he's afraid he's forget, he can say his middle also. It's interesting in the Haggadahs, you know, they just say have Sfiras Omer printed at the end of the Haggadahs. Because it's a whole question. There's a big shiloh. They said Sfiras Omer before. We say it in shul before, after Maariv. But some say no. It's not how to the Sas. We don't say it till after the Seder. So they said it after the Haggadah. In any case, it's good for the ladies that aren't in shul. They get to the end of the Haggadah, if they make it that far. It has Sfiras Omer at the end. So you remember at the end of the meal, I'm going to stop your meal, but we started beheter. But just a point. Where if you daven later, if you daven after Shkia, so since we hold Sfiras Omer as Rabbanan, so you can be Yotze Bein HaShmoshes. So even if you daven Mincha Maariv, so technically Maariv may be still before Tzeis HaKachavim, maybe 15 minutes after Shkia, whatever it is. It's not 45 minutes after Shkia, right? So it's still Bein HaShmoshes. But since it's a Rabbanan, one could be Soimech and make a bracha and say Sfiras Omer. There are those that wait and daven late, but dafka in order to get the Sfiras Omer in the proper zman. But if you're afraid you're going to forget, which usually will happen, you already daven Maariv and you forget, so therefore it's more preferable. There's an interesting Mechaber, I'm not going to enter it now, that says you should say it. It says an interesting halacha that you should say Sfiras Omer with the shul, and then later without a bracha, and then later say it with a bracha later. It's Mechaber. And all the last questions on the Mechaber, why is it like that? You've already said it, you make a bracha later, you have in mind not to be Yotze with it tonight. But it's already 15-20 minutes after Shkia, so a person can make a bracha and say Sfiras Omer, and then if he wants to remember later, l'chumra, he could say it again later without a bracha, but he could be saved because chances are he'll forget, and therefore it's better to say it now, Bein HaShmoshes, to be Soimech on the Adon Shitzis, that's something to Abanon, so you could say, you can make... If
you use that same tonight, and with your first saying is even earlier than Bein HaShmoshes?
No, because before Bein HaShmoshes is not Sfiras Omer at all. So you definitely can't make a bracha, and if you say it, it for sure won't be Yotze anything. It's before his man. It's only after Shkia that you can be after Shkia. Yeah. After Shkia you can say Sfiras Omer.
Because I think that some shuls do say on the earlier, when they daven early, like Friday night, they do count the.
They count it? Oh, that's surprising.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. It's a chayah. I mean, there is a question I learned in the Mechaber if we said it in the day. Some learns that he said it earlier. There's a question how to learn. There could be a basis for that, because the Mechaber says like this, that it was very cloudy. They thought they didn't have clocks then, so it was very cloudy. It was dark. They thought it was night, and they made a bracha al Sfiras Omer. Chayzun lisper k'shetechshach. You make a bracha again. It goes. Or the next halacha. Sorry, next one. Maspal matzibim b'boid yoyim. You daven with the siva when it was still day. Moini mom b'loy bracha. And yiska b'layli bracha v'yispar. So the question is, what does it mean b'boid yoyim? So yesh b'achan shpirit, that's after Bein HaShmoshes. That's how he brings down. Even though there must be others that learn out like that. But some ones that is even earlier, and they can say with them without a bracha. But halacha l'maisa, we don't say it before.
I don't understand. We make a big deal about not telling people the number of the night, right? So you say yesterday we davened,
right.
The number. So if you said it without a bracha, that seems to me far more serious than telling your friend we're counting 8.
Again? If he said...
How can you say it without a bracha and then say it with a bracha later? You've already counted, right? And you counted at the wrong time.
Yeah, so you have to say that you have a mind not to be yotze. You have specifically in mind
not to be yotze.
Not to be yotze.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you remember, right?
Yeah.
If I remember,
then
I'm not yotze.
Right. If I don't remember, then you are yotze.
Yeah.
Yeah. This thing with telling your friend is also not so simple that if you tell your friend you can't count, you have no das to make a. That's partially that. Anyways, by now, as we say over every year, we were holding ready after a week. So if you say the day without the Shavuos, even though you yotze bikra adin,
right,
we assume a person didn't have in mind to be yotze sfiras Omer if he said the day without the,
right,
like a lag boy says, oh, it's a lag boy, whoops, you know, but he didn't say the weeks. He didn't say, so even though mikra adin is yotze, the days without the weeks, but we assume he didn't have in mind to be yotze the mitzvah if he didn't do it properly. He was supposed to say his mitzvah.
It's really only an issue
days
for the
and to
first
say
6
the
days.
weeks. Yeah.
First 6 days.
What if a person made a bracha and then they couldn't remember which day it was? They really didn't know.
Yeah.
And they're sort of stuck at that point.
Well, they got to do something.
What would they say?
There is an interesting tshuva from the Dvar of Ram. If a person could say, Zachov, it's a 4th or 5th day.
Yeah.
So I'll make a bracha and say, Hayom Yom Revi'i, Hayom Yom Chamishi. Then I'll figure it out later, you know?
2 days.
He got it just in case. So there's a whole shiloh if he's yotze because that will counting a day because he doesn't know which day it is, or is that not called counting because is that called not counting because he doesn't know? Well, might say 2 days. You're not counting. Well, no, he said the day, so it is counting.
Okay.
There's a whole shiloh based on the Baal Omer. I think it comes out to you are yotze, but it's definitely not a recommended way of doing things.
Video.
Yeah. Okay. Dinim that are noig in the Yemei Omer. So Mikra Adin. Okay, we all know there's different minhagim when we count when we do the velus. If it's from now until Lag BaOmer, that's the 2 main shitas. Hagam there are many variations in the different minhagim, but the 2 main minhagim are whether we do from now until Lag BaOmer, or we do from Rosh Chodesh until 3 days before Shavuos, and Lag BaOmer not included. Oh, yeah, included, not included, different variations, but yeah. So there's different minhagim, and this is Mechaber brings we don't the main minhag is that we don't make a chasana. There's 2 things we don't do basically. We don't do a chasana. We get married during that time because that's a simcha. That's also considered a it's a bad mazel too. It's not a good omen. You know, it's Yemei Adin. It's called in the Zohar. It's called Yemei Adin. You know, it's the time of judgment. That's why. It's also another reason why we grow our hair. Hair is growing your hair is Mr. Din. But anyways, but it's Yemei Avelus, so we don't have chasana during those times, and we don't take a haircut. We'll take a haircut. Then there's another minhag which also, because the idea is that we're supposed to be avelus a little bit for the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva, so we also don't do dancing with music. Rekudim u'mecholos. That's sort of stretched to listening to all music because music makes a person want to dance. Music and you want to dance along. So we don't listen to any music or dancing during these days. What? No, Chalamoid is what?
What about modern day engagement?
So engagement you're allowed to
You
make.
cannot put away engagement, but that's a
Engagement you're allowed to make, but you don't have music with dancing.
No, but it's simcha. People have.
You're allowed to have engagement because we're afraid Shem Yiktamenu Acher. Someone else might chaperine if you don't chaperine.
But people feel happy really.
Yeah, someone asked me a Scheiner the other day. I don't understand the whole question, but someone wanted to read a shidduch to a girl, and she's going to Eretz Yisrael, my boy's there. So she said, well, I have a friend that's already there, let him go out first, and if it doesn't work out, then I'll go out, because if it's Basher, it's Basher. So I don't understand where that comes from. Well, it's from chitin, you know. You go, you know, you have to work hard with it. You go you know. But so the Chazal say that if the shidduch comes up and so you know you can make the engagement. The more meant engagement. So today we don't make Tanaim really, you know, it's only make Tanaim, real Tanaim by the engagement. But nonetheless, once the engagement happens, it's much harder to break off than before the engagement. Even though technically nothing took place, it just became public notice. So, so we make an engagement you can make.
Bar mitzvah?
Bar mitzvah for sure you can make. Bar mitzvah for sure you can make.
And what's
you can even
status
take
of
a
music
haircut.
at
The
bar
father
mitzvah?
maybe and the son maybe can even take a haircut for the bar mitzvah.
And music at the bar mitzvah?
No, we don't do music.
No music.
We don't do music. We're not connected to music.
Regarding the haircut, like if the person holds until Lag BaOmer, he can cut the hair anytime after Lag BaOmer? Or
If you hold to the Lag you could go Lag BaOmer and on. Some people, there was a minhag, it's interesting. The Mechaber says you shouldn't take a haircut until Lamed Daled BaOmer. If you hold from the beginning until Lag BaOmer, so Lag BaOmer is included in the days that the Rabbi Kiva is telling me the Modai maybe, but Ramah says Medinas Elu Einoigin Kedvar. I don't know what the Sfadim Takadu. I'm not sure. Ramah says that in Medinas Elu we're not noid like him. We take haircuts on Lamed Gimel.
That's only on Gimel or any day?
And beyond and after.
That's what the different minhagim are attributed to.
Basically.
When they plot the Talmud.
No, not really. It could be, but it could be even if they didn't die. We just have a certain amount of days that we keep. So whether we keep it in the beginning until Lag BaOmer, or we keep it from Rosh Chodesh till we try to keep. How many days is it?
33.
No, it's not 33.
Oh.
You missed 7. 7 minus 7 is 20, 25, 24 days. There's that amount of days. So if you start from Rosh Chodesh and you skip Lag BaOmer, and you do until Shavuos, there's a certain amount of days. It doesn't have to be that it doesn't have to be is because they partially say they stopped dying on Mamadal, even though it's not so.
So those who keep one half of the Omer, the rest of the half there's no element.
So those who keep the first day don't have to keep the second day. Now there is Al-Pi Side, some people keep both days, but that's just both the first half and the second half. Peter Rizal, but that's just a chumrah, you know. But Vada, if there's a chassan that needs to be made and things like that, you know, it's Al-Pi Side to keep both days. But Mikra the minhag is the first half for most Ashkenazim, and some people keep the second half.
And the minhagim all come at once, or
I don't know.
They developed over a period?
I'm not sure how they developed different places. I'm not sure. I don't know how it came about, but they're sourced back, way back in the Rishonim time already. It's already sourced back to different minhagim. So that's not a new phenomenon. But that's the Iker Dinam. The Iker Dinam is getting married, taking haircuts, and music. Now, taking haircuts includes shaving, and I had to brought down. So let's go through that term a little bit. What it's relevant for. So chasana, we all know the famous by Moshe that it comes up quite often. People try to find a date for a chasana, and the question is, you know, they can't work out to do it in the first half. They want to do it. Let's say they keep the second half. But they keep the second half. They can't get married before Lag BaOmer. Before Rosh Chodesh is too early, and they push it off till after Shavuos may be problematic. So the question is, could they switch their minhag and do it the second half? So Moshe had a heter that they could actually switch their minhag and make the chassan in the second half and keep the first half svira. Moshe has such a heter.
Can a band play any time during a sphere?
Why?
Like an actual band that's hired out for a wedding?
Oh, so let's say a band that's hired out for a wedding, and this guy keeps one sphere and he's paying for the wedding for the other sphere. It's a good shiloh. To go to a wedding, he could. If let's say someone is making a wedding in the half that you don't hold of, You hold the other half, you let it go. Let it go to the wedding. You know, let it go for. You don't have to. You let it join into the symphonies.
But if you're a musician,
yeah.
and
Generally speaking, the practice in Ashkenaz was not to do it in the first half of the sphere. So it's not really recommended to do it in the first half, even if it's before Rosh Chodesh. Moshe was matir, but Shmati from Rav David Feinstein that he didn't like it at all. You know, son. But the minhag in Ashkenaz was always the first half for the sphere was the Ikar sphere, and therefore we try not to make chasnas then.
If a person is either a musician or a barber, that's their parnasa.
Yeah, barber for sure could do it. You should also pashas you could do it for parnasa. If he's doing it for someone, and if it's done beheter, if it's done in a mutadik way. We had a shaila this year. It wasn't again anymore, but there was a question of making a chasana. Couldn't find the date. The question was making it on Rosh Chodesh year, so the second day Rosh Chodesh. It's not so simple. That's the first day Rosh Chodesh. The first day Rosh Chodesh is not yet. If you hold it a second span, so it's still in Nisan. Yeah. So the second day Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Chodesh year. There are some makilim, but they won't have too many attendees at the chasana. It wasn't so simple if they could be mad to it. The wife didn't work out anyways. But yeah. But so for chasana, that was as much as had the person can make a chasana at either one if it's necessary. But Hagam that Moshe was matter it again. That it's real big tzarich to do it in the first half. If you hold it, even if you hold it a second half. Generally, you don't find chasnas this week. You don't find too many chasnas. We try not to do it in minhag Ashkenaz. We have to like Omer. So if someone says tzarich, he can't do it later. Says what to be samech on to make a chasna during those days if it's necessary. That's the biggest din. The biggest din of Manoigim B'meis Omer is Nesuin, because that's the real simcha. The real simcha today is where do we have a real simcha today? How do you find a real simcha? The real simcha that we have, that's a dogma, that's what will be after the Beis HaMikdash we built, is a chasna. All the simchas are small play. That's why chasna makes such a big affair. People don't like to spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on the chasna. But the truth is, it's a simcha it's one of the only things which is a true simcha today. So that's the ikar, the svivas for the chasna. Now, for taking a haircut. So what?
I think you were going to talk about the parent of shaving.
Yeah, so let's just go in order. So taking a haircut it includes everything. It's not just cutting your hair. It's any hair a person wants to cut is included in the sphere. Let's get the place out. I'm not finding it here. Here we are. So taking a haircut for a bris, the Baal bris could take a haircut. The Baal bris could take a haircut. The Baal bris is the sandik or the father, the avia ben. Bar mitzvah really shouldn't take a haircut. There are some that will matter to take when he was a cotton. Before he became bar mitzvah, he's still a cotton. But well, a chassan maybe could take a haircut before Zayfuf. If it's necessary, he could take a haircut. Those are matam take a haircut. A person's allowed to shave his mustache, if it's ma'akav achila, that we have. A person's allowed to do if it's bothers something we can cover. But those are the basic ideas. The shal is to shave, so Moshe has a heter that's called, if it's a hefsid. When Moshe says it's a hefsid, it's not just a hefsid. If let's say a person has to meet an important official, and it could be a hefsid or it could be it won't go well, so then a person has a heter to shave. But or if there's a hefsid for his job, he's really where a hefsid merubim if he's afraid that he won't get the job or he'll lose his job, or even if he'll lose his job, but he won't be able to lose money. So there's a heter, Moshe holds that there's no halacha of there's mitzvahs d'Rabbanan. Mitzvahs d'Rabbanan is not a person doesn't have to spend a loisa say. A person to be over a loisa say d'oraisa, he has to spend all his money. You can't do an aveira just because it's going to cost you money is not a heter. Right? To do a mitzvah say, a person only has to spend a certain amount. So shlish doesn't have to spend. He doesn't have to spend more. You know, if you can't afford an esrog, the mitzvah say, the mitzvah's loisa say, if they tell you to eat chazer, but you can pay yourself out, you have to pay whatever money. You can't. A loss of money is not a heter for a loisa say. But on Din Rabbanan, Moshe held that since the whole thing is a minhag Rabbanan, so you're not mechuyev to take a hefsid. You're not mechuyev to take a hefsid mammon based on it. So Moshe, that's others disagreed with him, but that's how Moshe held. But the person has to judge if there's a real hefsid. You know, some people feel there's a hefsid, but you can try it once or twice and see. You can try it out to see if it's a hefsid. You know.
What about prior to Rosh Chodesh? Could a person have a haircut then? Before Rosh Chodesh?
So before Rosh Chodesh, if there's those that were matter on Rosh Chodesh year, if Rosh Chodesh year came out on Shabbos, they're allowed to take a haircut, will cover Shabbos, will cover Rosh Chodesh, but that doesn't happen this year. So that was the heter of shaving. The person should remember that Moshe was matter at, people get confused between the 3 weeks and the Sfiras Omer. The 3 weeks are much more chomer than the Sfiras Omer. Could be there's a heter during the 3 weeks also, but it's not as 9 days. It's a little more chomer. A person shouldn't confuse. Like people ask, are you allowed to wash your clothing in the Sfiras Omer? Yeah, you're allowed to wash your clothing. It's not the 3 weeks. Those that are machmas avelos, so machmas not to do proper wash the clothing either, but we don't do that. People can confuse the 3 weeks in the Sfiras Omer. They don't wash their clothing. Some people that didn't wash their clothing even during the Sfiras Omer. But that's not our just die loyal for love. We have enough things we have to worry about, But I'll go put him. People shouldn't confuse the 3 weeks in Sfiras Omer. Sfiras Omer is a little more lighter. But yeah, so that was the Moshe's heter about taking about shaving.
Jonathan had a question.
There was a shaila of people go out, the bachrim going out on dates. It's the first time you meet a shidduch, the first time you meet a girl, and you look at that little haggard there with the without shaving. So there was a shaila if they're allowed to go on a date, they could take a shave. They say over from Moshe that he said they could for the first time, first time meeting a girl. First time meeting a girl, it's also a hefsid. You might lose your future kala.
Very much.
What?
I think the opposite. She sees you clean shaven, she might think.
Might get the wrong. I don't think it works like that. I remember when I got engaged. It was Taka. We got engaged right before Pesach. I was clean shaven then, and before Pesach, and then I met again after Pesach. I came back and I had a little thing. So my wife didn't chap. I think she probably kept the second street. I don't know. She didn't chap. We were getting all nervous and we were going to bed. This and that. Like this after the engagement. But so I reminded us this time. But so the first time makes a difference. The first impressions. People don't take seriously first impressions, but first impressions make a tremendous difference. And once you have the first impression, you can go on. That's why I have all these shilas on dates. You want to do this. So that first time is, I'm not saying a psak halachi. I'm just saying I'm just giving a share. Ask your local rabbi if it's the gay.
Jonathan had a question on that heter around Moshe regarding shaving and hefsid mama.
Right.
What if a person really needed a haircut and they thought it would be a hefsid mama and they didn't get a haircut? Do they use that same heter to apply to the haircut?
Today the haircuts are not so usually not such a hefsid because people have long hair. You just take a nice shower and get it done nicely. And that's not so. It's not such a necessity. A shave, a few days shave, it just doesn't look right, It doesn't look. It looks bad. Haircut's not so. It could be if it's mamash looked very bad. It could be if mamash looked very bad. A person. very bad. It could be a proper shiloh what he should do. But normally it's not so bad. Get a little trim here and there could be maybe do the trick for a haircut. But that was a Moshe's Heter. What else I want to say? So
are these restrictions only for men or also for women?
for women also.
And should women count them or?
That's a
They
different
have
question.
the obligation?
Counting them is a different question, but the availus the assignment that they have to.
That
Counting
hair as
them
well?
make it in their potter.
That hair as well?
What?
That hair as well?
Yeah. It's like haircuts.
No women with beards. No, for sure.
We'll cut the beards for sure. Yeah.
In their painting.
Al Kapanim, just end with this, that the concept of Sviras Omer is a fascinating concept because, again, like we said, it's in the middle of a time of Simcha, and all of a sudden we have the Avelis of Rabbi Akiva. So we said this in previous years that if we understand the historical situation at the time, Chazal say in other words, Rabbi Akiva was considered the one that Torah Sheba'al Peh was given through. He's counted in the Messiah given down to the Torah Sheba'al Peh to the extent that he is almost considered the Rebbe of Torah Sheba'al Peh, because Rabbi Akiva's Tima, Rashi says, Rabbi Akiva's Stam Mishnah, all the Talmidim, Stam Mishnah, Stam Brisa, Stam Toseftes, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Nechemia, these are all the 5 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. So the whole Torah that we have, the Mishnayos and the Talmud, is based on Rabbi Akiva's teachings. And Rabbi Akiva had a big yeshiva with 24,000 Talmidim, and the Torah was being built on that. And then they all died between these days. As Mamash, there was a loss of Torah. The foundations of Torah Sheba'al Peh was literally missing. And then, until he came to Rabbi he came to the 5 Talmidim, and he taught them, and that from that we have basically the Talmud we have is from them. So you can imagine what kind of Talmud we would have had if it came from 24,000 Talmidim. But so the Avelis is not just an Avelis for the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, but it shows an appreciation of the Torah Sheba'al Peh the way we have it. And to get a glimpse of an insight of Rabbi Akiva's life, we all know that Chazal say that Rabbi Akiva, we all know Rabbi Akiva had a very fascinating life. That's a share by itself, just to go through the life of Rabbi Akiva, the way he pinned his hopes on Mashiach, on Bar Kaziva. You can imagine, Rabbi Akiva was the Gadol Adar. You can imagine, the undisputed Gadol Adar, and he followed Bar Kaziva, Bar Kochba, that he was Mashiach, and he supported him, and didn't pay it out. Okay, so Machlokes the Rabbi arrived if he was right, and it just didn't happen in the end because he did an Aveiro, if he was a Tois, if he really wasn't Mashiach. It's Machlokes whether he was really supposed to be Mashiach, not supposed to be Mashiach. But either way, you can imagine if such a time, Rabbi Akiva just turned around and said, okay, he's not weiter gegangen, we've got to move on, and they regrouped and kept it going. And then Rabbi Akiva, there was persecutions by the Romans, and he was killed himself in the end. Rabbi Akiva was killed himself. First of all, Rabbi Akiva started when he was 40. He started learning the whole Torah when he was 40, mamash from the beginning. And then at the end of his life, he was killed. They ripped the skin off him, and Chazal say they cut his meat up and sold it in the shuk. And the Malach Hashar said that Zu Torah, Zu Scheiner, this is Torah, this is the schar of the Torah, this is the reward. And Father Mori says over that Rabbi Akiva was the Torah that we live through today. Rabbi Akiva was the Messiah giving over Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Torah Sheba'al Peh has to last through 2,000 years of bitter gullus. 2,000 years of bitter gullus Torah Sheba'al Peh can only survive it if the one who's giving Torah Sheba'al Peh, he was able to go through it and still come out at the end and say, this is what I was waiting for my whole life. I was davening for this time that he could be Mekadosh Shem Shemayim. So he was a person that was way beyond our concept of human nature. He saw the good in everything. Akiva the Chamtani, the Gemara says, he saw the Shualim going on the Makam HaMikdash, and he saw the good in everything, and was able to rise way above, falling into the sinking in the long gullah. So that's the legacy of Rabbi Akiva is given over to us through the Talmud, because everything we have in the Talmud is from his Talmidim. And that's the Torah Shabbal Peh. So there was and there was a loss. There was 24,000 Talmidim that were lost, and but still Torah was built up afterwards. That's what happened recently in the last 60, 70 years, where there was a tremendous loss with the amount of Torah, yeshivas, and people that was lost in the Holocaust. It was as if people didn't believe Klal Yisrael could exist afterwards. Today you see, a few short years later, how we're thriving. Who knows? Maybe even greater than previously, to some degree, in some aspects. There's so much Torah out there. There's so many Yidden living. It's unbelievable what's doing. The sacrifices of the previous generations is living on today. And this is the lesson we could take out of the Yemei Sviva. What will happen then is, there's a protocol what happens throughout the Golos, and still we have the ability to rebuild from 5 Talmidim. We have the ability to rebuild, so we could take out some. Even though it might be a time of Avelus, but it's also a time a person can take out some chizuk. We can always rebuild, no matter what we go through. We can walk on past, shake it off, and move on, and continue growing.
Sure.